All right, guys, welcome to the latest episode of Blood Money. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. B. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I have a lot of gratitude and a lot to give thanks for, considering the situation. So happy Easter to you and your family as well.
Thank you, thank you. So obviously we're calling you Mr. B because we're trying to, keep your name under wraps for the time being. But you have an incredible story to tell. This is really a topic about the deprivation of our rights. What is being lost by, I guess, politicians and officials that want to disregard what our rights are as civilians and citizens. So, Mr. B, why don't you just dive right into your story? Tell us what happened to you.
Sure. I've been on federal disability since 2017, and that allows state and local government to issue broad medical benefits to all persons with disabilities, county services and things like that. So sometimes those services expire and you're supposed to re-enroll. And literally Halloween, I think it was of 2023, the county services that I had expired. And so I asked for an accommodation from that facility to re-enroll and was subsequently refused up until the point where I'm in the hospital from an auto versus pedestrian hit and run. During that 2-year window, I attempted to get medical services, medication, and also file mandated reporter services. Now, what is a mandated reporter? That's going to be almost anyone in state or local government, doctors, nurses, all our firefighter professionals, anyone abuse to either an elderly person who is developmentally disabled or someone who can't achieve their rights. And if you don't get that service, it's actually a crime. It's enforced in the state of California, often by the California Department of Justice.
Mr. B, I've heard a lot about mandated reporters, and believe it or not, I've had some run-ins with corrupted individuals and institutions that try to nullify the importance of a mandated reporter. So this is a topic that's very interesting to me. So tell me a little bit more about this mandated reporter thing.
100%. So on a broad spectrum, in regards to human trafficking, mandated reporters are the frontline people who can help stop this. These are our police, our firefighters, our nurses, our doctors, general employees of state and local government. Okay. In California, this is going to be under the Health and Welfare Code 15600. Without getting too complex right there, just keeping that very simple. And the actual criminal charge is a PC, so Penal Code 368. Now, essentially what happens is no state and local government, regardless of the law, their employees don't want to snitch on their fellow employees, right? So no law officer is going to file this report and they're going to gaslight you to the point where, they're going to tell you that they're not going to comply with that law under any circumstances. And it's certainly a tragedy. Mandated reporter also applies to any abuse that an elderly person might experience in a hospital, a nursing home, or anything like that. And then, of course, developmentally disabled people who may not be able to even speak on their own behalf, or maybe they have more severe conditions.
So tell me about your specific story about what happened and how the importance of a mandated reporter was nullified in your situation.
Well, not only was I refused mandated reporting services by law enforcement of my county, the county's ADA coordinator, and I'm not going to name that individual, but they were willing to put in writing that the county of Riverside does not offer mandated reporter services. And that, of course, is a statement of admissions to a criminal act, and that criminal act representing the entire county for some crazy reason. So That's pretty extreme.
So, okay, so they're not allowing mandated reporters. What is the kind of recourse you have if they're not allowing you your lawful rights?
Well, you would do something similar to this. You would go to your county courthouse, like I did, and I filed 12 elder abuse claims. And eventually, upon returning to the judge instructed me that my restraining orders or temporary restraining orders had not been served. Well, the Riverside County Sheriff was responsible for serving them. They allowed a county employee to say, "Oh, we don't accept that paperwork," and just walked out.
And that's it. Like they have.
No,
I
no.
mean,
So
there's huh?
yeah, you can call the California Department of Justice or Fair Employment and Housing. That's going to be like a year-long investigation. Pretty hard to guarantee enforcement or even guarantee your rights through them.
Wow, wow. So I mean, this is like they just disobey the law wholesale, and there's no recourse. You're saying?
Yeah, and they're willing to disobey the law in writing, even when they've been given um, all the you can fax documentation that can, let's say, take away their plausible deniability, right? So you fax them, hey, here's my request, here's all the statutes that are related to my request, and please comply with this request. And they're like, no.
And that's it. Like you have no recourse after that. Like Rob Bonta, for example, Attorney General of California, like there's nothing he could do.
So I actually have a letter from Rob Bonta instructing all state district attorneys, all city attorneys, and all county council to enforce upon their state and local government, okay, these entities, district attorneys, city attorneys, and county council, are instructed by Rob Bonta to enforce violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So rather than just asking for a mandated reporter, I asked to be accommodated as a disabled person for mandated reporter services. Even with this letter in hand, it's dated, I believe, June 14th, 2022, because I had made a report to the FBI on 6/6/2022, and then suddenly this letter appears, right? So even with that letter, they will tell you, no, absolutely not. We are not going to comply with the state attorney general's instructions.
And I mean, so
Right.
that's it. That you're shut out of luck at that point, basically, or
I can go to the district court in Riverside County.
Mhm.
Now, that's really going to be based upon the availability of transportation. Okay. For the average person that is not on disability, you would have to pay your own legal fees. Individuals with disability should not be paying any legal fees in any court system anywhere in the country. So that's a large equity pool. But for the average person, it might cost $500-600 just to file your first piece of paperwork. And a lot of people in situations where their rights are deprived don't have those resources.
I mean, it just seems ridiculous that your rights are deprived, something that is lawfully supposed to happen, but then you got to go into great expenses. It's funny because everybody knows about the situation that I had with Sheriff Chad Bianco falsely accusing
Sure.
me of being a Trump assassin. And one of the things he said in an early on interview prior to me filing a lawsuit against him is that everybody threatens to file lawsuits. He took it as an empty threat, right?
Sure.
Because it's so expensive. And I've heard many whistleblowers talk about how his general policy is lawsuits are too expensive. They're never going to come after me. Hence and therefore, he's the all powerful sheriff that could do whatever he wants. That does not sound like a just system, that you have these elected officials that are blatantly breaking the law. And now, in order to fix what is lawfully yours, you have to, drive yourself to bankruptcy or spend your own money and wealth. What's going on there?
So ironically, Grok is getting better and better, and I asked Grok to find whatever public resource it could and estimate the amount of lawsuit settlements that have happened in Riverside County. And in 10 years, remember, this is an estimation by Grok, okay? It is estimated 77 million in settlements from 2010 to 2020. And this, of course, is 2025. So they're just willing to have that policy. We don't comply with the law. If you sue us, we want to settle out of court so it doesn't go on public record.
Wow. So the real thing to do is to basically sue and make sure that this is in court records, not take settlements. Is that what you're saying?
Well, individuals are empowered with what's called the False Claims Act. So any private citizen can actually bring a sealed case if the certification of compliance required for state and federal funding is compromised. Okay. Any violation of any law can pretty much compromise that. So any state or local government that doesn't want to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act signs a document saying that they will. And if they don't, their state and federal funding could be removed. But unless you have an individual that knows, hey, how do we pull the surety bonds? How do I maybe get a False Claims Act attorney in the first place? How do I even communicate to the attorney the right facts to gain interest? Is it a right fit for the law firm? There are just so many variables. So the blessing in disguise is literally, in this case, being a pedestrian that was been hit by a car, so that the circumstance is so severe that the law enforcement is going to be obligated to act. And then as of this point, I have no CHP or county sheriff or any law enforcement who has contacted me for any statement or investigation whatsoever.
You mentioned something there that is definitely an interesting topic: pulling people's surety bonds. From what I understand is that and correct me if I'm wrong here, but my basic understanding is that surety bonds are basically their insurance, right? And if you do something wrong, for example, showing that they have bad behavior that's going to land, or more precisely, unlawful behavior that's going to land them in lawsuits, and therefore their liability, they get their insurance pulled and they become unemployable. Tell me if any of that is correct, and give us more info, please.
Yeah, that seems 100% spot on. So essentially, an oath of office, right, is taken by a majority of all competent law enforcement people, if we can use those two words together, and they say, hey, we're not going to violate any laws, but really they're professional gaslighters, and they will tell you that you, the normal citizen, are incapable of interpreting any law on your own, and AI general intelligence that's available on their phone, they're not going to consult that to ask what their compliance could be, right? And so through the proper methods, which most people don't know about, right? Yes, a bond can be pulled. There was a famous incident that went viral during COVID in West Palm Beach. And this fiery little Italian lady went into her city council and said, you're in violation of all these laws. You have 10 days to comply or we're pulling your bonds. And that city no longer had restrictions for the rest of the COVID era. And I forget what her name was, but you can look up West Palm Beach, You've Been Served, and watch her little 3-minute video. Very inspiring lady.
I mean, I'd love to learn, man. How do we do this? I would love to, and this might be a great experiment to the success or failure of this kind of concept. How do we pull Sheriff Chad Bianco's bond, knowing that, he is willing to risk people's lives by doing false accusations and doing things that, it's pretty clear, self-serving purposes as opposed to serving the people?
This is one of the things I'm not quite fully versed as an expert in, but what I can tell you, a state governor can remove from office or employment pretty much anyone for any reason without notice. Okay. but you would have to have the, again, compliance of that entity. Okay. On October 18th, I sent a package to the False Claims Act division for the state attorney general, who, guess what, did not accommodate me for mandated reporter services. That means if I do earn a sealed case in district court, the state attorney general will not be able to intervene in that case. And if the DOJ, the Federal Department of Justice, does not enjoin that case, all the commission structure, there'd be no one to share it with but, the relator. That would be me, the person who would bring a case. Now, what's interesting about a False Claims Act case is if you don't have to repay the government 3 times the amount of the fraud you defrauded them, it's automatically a criminal charge, according to Justice Thomas, and that was laid down in the Escobar case. So if no one in my state or local government helps me, right, I need to document the who, what, when, and where of every single individual I can who made any fraudulent efforts. Again, there's a certification of compliance for state and federal funding. And if I don't get help from my superior state government agencies, like a state attorney general or a governor, they would also literally be liable in that False Claims Act case. And if it gets big enough, it literally could bankrupt the state of California. So who knows what could happen in 2026.
Wow, man. Tell us a little bit more. So where are you in this process now? What's your next steps in order to have your rights be upheld? And third question is, how do we make this more common so people are aware how to really take on a lot of these corrupt individuals that seem like once they get into power, they could give a rat's ass about people like you and I, our rights being violated?
Correct. So the best thing we can do, social media is not a venue for enforcement or complaining. Okay. It is not a venue, period. So if you have any complaint on any state or local government official, no matter where in the USA you live, your best friend is actually at the post office. And it's a little green card that you can fill out that requests the signature of the person that you put in writing the information to. And then if you have that green card and you end up in court, you can say, Your Honor, I verified that, for example, Chad Bianco signed for these documents on such and such a date. Here's the card from the post office. Here's his signature. And here's the content that was notarized and delivered, right? And then that would be almost impossible for a state and local government or in
Sorry,
receive
you cut
substantial
out for a
knowledge.
second. Sorry. I have to have you
No
repeat
worries.
that last
No
part you
worries.
said, because you got cut out about 10 seconds ago. Do you mind repeating what you just said?
Absolutely. The green card from the post office gives you documentation in any court system that the written effort you communicated was received by that individual. So, for example, Chad Bianco, if received, would be liable now for that information. They can't say, well, I didn't know.
Okay. So what do you do if they say I didn't know?
Well, that's the magic of having proof of delivery from the U.S. postal system. It's a little bit better than a fax, right? I know faxes sound like they're old fashioned, but I use fax a lot because I get a fax cover sheet saying, literally in my medical stay, 14 elder abuse reports were faxed to the California Department of Health because that was the first time in 2 or 3 years I had gotten mandated reporter services, and I had to arm wrestle the facility with legal jargon to be able to achieve that, right? So no one wants to report elder abuse, and that gets into kind of the opioid crisis, right? They're just going to pump you with med. Please don't get hurt, people. They're just going to pump you with meds so you're drooling in a hospital bed, and they're going to bill the federal government $500 to $1,000 a day for that service.
All right. So what comes for you next? What are your next steps here?
The next steps, hopefully, are that the state and local law enforcement is compliant with the rules of the insurance company. Okay. And the insurance company I have traditionally insures military type of families as well as relatives of that military family. So you can kind of guess who that insurance company might be. Now, if state and local government does not fill out police reports properly for hit and run accidents, auto versus pedestrian, separate from me, in which I would not even receive compensation, that insurance company can sue those law enforcement people for what I'm insured to. So I have an amount that I'm insured up to if they don't find the driver. And that will give me a vast amount of capital to get down to the federal courthouse, file documents, and hold all these people accountable.
But how does one go about actually doing it?
If you are not getting support in your state and local government from the higher agencies, such as governor or state attorney general, the next entity in line are the USAOs, so the United States Attorney Offices. Now, unfortunately, in California, if you contact the Central Division of the USAO, they don't comply with any law or request under any circumstance. They're going to gaslight you, tell you you don't know what the law is. So, bottom line, you can research a False Claims Act attorney. And based upon your individual circumstances, if you believe it's pretty clear, cut and dry that, hey, this entity or organization does have on file a certification of compliance related to state and federal funding. So, for instance, even a hospital that gets Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, they have to have a certification of compliance on file to receive that funding. Okay. And so, if you don't know the legal realm, but you can get the who, what, when, and where, and feel free to ask a chat GPT, hey, how would I communicate this to a False Claims Act attorney? And that's a great way to get help so that whatever ideas that you have, you can learn the right verbiage and keywords without having to do months or years of research,
Wow, that's very helpful. Mr. B, is there anything that we haven't talked about thus far that's important to discuss before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah. I want to share a super, super humbling experience. Okay. So it's an hour drive in the ambulance to the hospital from where I'm at, because I'm in a very rural location. Okay. I was sent home supposedly early, according to the doctor who took x-rays on my readmission to the hospital. That makes me think that asking doctors and nurses and CNAs for mandated reporter services could have made that hospital want to get me out of the building faster. Okay. Upon readmission, they took x-rays, and the doctor told me the prior doctor should have known better than to have discharged you. Right. So medical care and rights in medical care are extremely important. And we can't rely on even doctors or nurses, maybe to do their job, because they're getting so much money. Okay. I would estimate that at least my experiences, I'm covered under the federal insurance because I've been on disability for quite a long time. I estimate it's close to $300,000. This would have bankrupt the average individual, even though it wasn't their fault, right? And so that's a big issue. And then healthcare treatment. Please don't let people give you opioids if you have any other solution. for every person in one of these extended cares that's doing better. I saw tiny little 98-year-old ladies in walkers with similar injuries fighting to get better. That is so humbling. It gives you so much gratitude, tearful gratitude, literally. So watching that experience was amazing, but then also people that were suffering horrific symptoms from opioids. The staff will just let there and scream for 45 minutes. It's haunting to one's person to hear that, and it's very disturbing. And watching the staff walk around, oh, don't worry, he's just constipated. This person is screaming bloody murder at the top of their lungs for, it's just, yeah. So healthcare, in addition to disability rights.
So much that, it seems as though civilians don't know about. But you're saying that there's actual tangible things that you can do as a civilian, as long as you know this information in terms of how to hold these people accountable.
Yeah, you would think that any local grand jury would be sophisticated enough, but what's happening is we live in a new world of accountability now. So on everybody's phone, every doctor, every law enforcement, every state and local government that employee you talk to, they now have AI, chat GPT, general intelligence on their phones. And if they do not choose to use that ability to verify their compliance, they are now in an act that is knowing and willful against your rights. It is not just plain negligence. So that's an important educational tool. And if you want to nerd out, read the Justice Manual published by the Department of Justice that has all these like fancy statutes. So for instance, if 2 or more people have an overt act, that's all you have to prove. You don't even have to prove guilt. Did 2 or more people somehow work together to defraud the United States? That's 18 USC 371. And that's probably one of the most important laws anyone in this country can learn about.
And what was that again? Could you repeat that?
Yeah, that's going to be 18 USC. That stands for United States Code. Mm-hmm. And the number associated with that is 371. I actually have it bookmarked, so I can pull it up here and read a very short synopsis here. So this is coming directly from justice.gov. And it says conspiracy to defraud the United States. And this statute creates an offense if 2 or more persons conspire to either commit any offense against the United States or to defraud the United States or any agency of for any purpose, right? So it is the broadest criminal conviction, and 99% of prosecutors love this because, hey, was there an overt act? I don't need any more proof. And then boom, you've got a hardcore criminal conviction.
Okay, so my last question, obviously my passion project, how does this apply to, well, actually I have 2 questions. Firstly, how does this apply to a Sheriff Chad Bianco?
Well, this is called a widespread pattern of behavior. So 2 separate incidents, law enforcement not investigating an auto versus pedestrian hit and run. That is under the leadership of Chad Bianco. Your experience is completely different. However, it's also under the leadership of Chad Bianco, proving that there's a widespread pattern of behavior of a failure to train or comply with any law that the United States will print.
Yeah, and you need dedicated individuals. I mean, so many people are so lethargic, with their NFL games and their, their sports, the NBA. It's just like they've checked out And then once the corruption knocks on their door, they're very awake at that point. But it's not preventative care; it's like sick care. Once you're
Mhm.
in the nightmare, you're like, how the hell is this happening? Really, we got to be more proactive as citizens and
Mhm.
civilians.
One of the best things that I would like to encourage, if you are an individual on federal disability, that means that you get Social Security disability income. You have one of the largest equity pools, even though your money might only be 700 a month, 1400 a month, maybe 3 grand if you had an excellent career, right? You pay no legal fees. That equity alone, right? Entities, law enforcement, they still have to pay legal fees to respond to you. Okay. So even though I lost my house, I cost the opposing party close to $150,000 in legal fees. And all I had to do was have tenacity, printer ink, and gas to get to the physical courthouse and have the clerk stamp that paperwork for me.
Wow, wow. Do you think we could get kind of a roundtable of people actually that know about these processes to
Mhm.
talk about it? That would be an interesting episode.
I would love that. I think there are social media influencers who have vast amounts of communication power. They also want to see a variety of arrests made nationwide over all kinds of criminal acts, but they're not motivated to actually even watch a 5 or 10 minute video on what that statute might be, right? So you can go to YouTube and you can type in 18 USC 371, and a whole bunch of lawyers have a short video on what that is. And our president, our vice president, Congress, individual citizens can all enforce that particular law. And again, if you're an individual with disabilities and you have a lot of time on your hands, learn the Americans with Disabilities Act. Title II of that act is for state and local government. It gives you so much rights. You second to like classified military individuals, you have a substantial amount of legal rights, but know ahead of time those legal rights will be obstructed. So build your rhino skin, not the bad rhinos, right? Actually like the animal, right? Build that toughness and that mental tenacity, and you will learn over time. Give yourself a year or two, just like an associate's degree or something like that, and ask general AI, any chat GPT, to help teach you, and that'll accelerate the process faster.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vim. I appreciate you and I appreciate your time today. Blessings to you and your family members who have also gone through quite the ordeal.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. For the viewers out there, thank you for joining us for this Blood Money episode. Make sure you check out americahappens.com for our featured episodes, as well as our Rumble channel and our Roku channel. I will see you all on the next episode of Blood Money. Take care.